The storm had been chasing them for miles. James Porter gripped the handlebars of his Harley-Davidson, his knuckles white against the worn leather of his gloves. The dark ribbon of Route 27 stretched endlessly ahead of him, cutting through the dense Tennessee woodlands. Behind him, his wife Lisa clung tightly, her arms wrapped around his waist, her breath warm against the back of his neck. The air was thick with electricity, the distant rumble of thunder rolling closer with every passing second. Lisa had been watching the sky for miles, her unease growing. The clouds swirled in ominous formations, the color of bruises, and the sharp scent of ozone lingered in the air. She leaned in, shouting over the roar of the wind, "James, we need to pull over. That storm's moving too fast." James hesitated, eyes flickering between the road ahead and the darkening horizon. He hated stopping, especially in the middle of nowhere, but Lisa was right. Something about the way the sky churned made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Reluctantly, he nodded and guided the bike toward the shoulder of the highway. They had barely rolled to a stop when the world erupted in white-hot light. A bolt of lightning struck without warning, slamming into James with the force of a freight train. His body convulsed violently, thrown off the motorcycle like a rag doll before hitting the asphalt with a sickening crack. Lisa screamed, stumbling toward him as the storm unleashed its fury. The sky split open, rain pounding against the pavement as she dropped to her knees beside her husband. His eyes were open but empty, his skin pale, his body eerily still. Lisa pressed trembling hands to his chest, desperately searching for any sign of life. Nothing. A pair of headlights cut through the rain, illuminating the scene. The distant wail of sirens echoed through the highway as an ambulance skidded to a halt beside them. Paramedics rushed out, immediately dropping to James's side. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with deep lines of exhaustion on his face, began chest compressions, his partner tearing open the defibrillator case. Charging clear, a violent shock rippled through James's lifeless body. His limbs jerked, but his pulse remained silent. Lisa clutched her arms to her chest, rocking back and forth as rain soaked her to the bone. The paramedics exchanged grim glances. The silence that followed felt like a verdict. And then something impossible happened. The ambulance shut down. Its lights flickered once, then died. The sirens cut out. The monitors inside went completely blank. One of the paramedics cursed under his breath, scrambling to check the battery. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "These rigs have backup power. There's no reason it should just..." A sound carried through the storm. A low, rhythmic chanting, distant at first, but growing louder. Lisa lifted her head, her breath hitching in her throat. From the edge of the woods, a woman emerged. She wore black. Not just any black, but an old-fashioned Victorian-style morning dress, tattered at the hem. Her long, wild black hair clung to her rain-soaked face, and in her hands, she clutched a worn, ancient-looking book. She moved with unnatural urgency, cutting through the rain with purpose. One of the paramedics stepped forward, raising a hand. "Ma'am, you need to stay back." She didn't listen. She dropped to her knees beside James, her gray eyes locking onto his motionless body. The air changed. She lifted the book toward the sky, her voice rising into a frantic, rhythmic chant, speaking a language none of them understood. The paramedics froze, staring as she slammed the book onto the wet pavement. Lisa recoiled. The woman's voice had changed. It wasn't just shouting. It was as if something else was speaking through her. Then the ground rumbled. James convulsed violently, his body arching upward, a guttural gasp ripping from his throat. His chest heaved, his fingers twitching. The paramedics jolted back in shock. At that same moment, the ambulance roared back to life. Its lights flashed, sirens blaring, machines inside beeping wildly as if nothing had ever happened. Lisa clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes brimming with disbelief. "James?" His head turned toward her. Alive. The paramedics rushed to him, checking his vitals, muttering under their breath. They were trained professionals. They had seen bodies die and stay dead. But now James was breathing. Lisa turned, eyes searching for the woman in black. But she was gone, vanished. No footprints, no sound of retreating steps, just the open stretch of highway and the endless dark woods beyond. The storm had passed. The air felt lighter, but something else lingered, something unnamed. Days later, the story reached Detective Warren Grady, a local investigator who had spent decades working the strange cases no one else wanted. When he heard what had happened on Route 27, something clicked in his mind. He pulled an old file from the cabinet in his office, flipping through faded newspaper clippings until he found what he was looking for. An article from 1908. The headline read, "Church Fire Leaves No Survivors. Mysterious Origins Unexplained." Route 27 had been built over the ashes of a long-forgotten revivalist church, a place where prayers were shouted into the heavens, where people spoke in tongues, where faith was a force that bent reality itself. The congregation had been fanatical. Their preacher, a woman who had been known for falling into trances, claiming she could bring back the dead. The fire had taken every soul inside, or so they thought. Grady leaned back in his chair, staring at the article, his fingers tightening over the brittle paper. Was James Porter saved by a miracle, or did something much older answer the call? No one ever saw the woman in black again. But even today, when the storms roll in over Route 27, travelers swear they hear a voice carried on the wind, chanting, waiting. Click on the like, share, and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.